looking at Parliament. It's a busy day, and I say that because we've got the Shadow Government Services Minister, who's the Manager of Opposition Business in the studio, Paul Fletcher. He's just warned me if there's a division, he has to go. I won't be offended, I understand. Let's start on Israel. Pretty troubling reports of this hospital that had a rocket on it, hundreds killed. So Hamas blaming Israel. Israel saying, we have evidence, this was not us. Is this a fog of war, or do you trust Israel on this?
Well, look, I'm not going to be commenting on the factual specifics. I haven't been briefed on it. I've seen the stories, obviously, but clearly we've got contested descriptions of what has happened. The fact is, Israel has a legitimate right to defend itself. There was a vicious and unprovoked attack which killed, we now know, over 1,000 Israelis, the majority, or many of them unarmed civilians. This was an appalling attack, a violation of all humanitarian principles. And Israel needs to defend itself. Now it's doing everything it can to warn civilians, and that's a clear distinction between Israel's approach and the approach of Hamas. The sort of moral equivalence that some on the left are asserting is entirely without basis. And I support Israel, the coalition supports Israel, we support Israel's right to defend itself.
Is it always at the caveat, though, of defending itself and avoiding that civilian situation? I mean, with water and electricity being cut off, obviously I'm not privy to how this operation works and how you contend with Hamas. And they've got a reputation for so-called, using civilians as a human shield, but this clearly cuts off, a couple of million people from getting what they need. Is that too far, cutting off water and electricity?
Israel has a legitimate right to defend itself, and we've seen atrocious, unprovoked attacks on unarmed civilians. Israel is demonstrably and clearly making efforts to avoid civilians being unnecessarily caught up in this. For example, with the warnings that it is issuing for people to move to the south. And
not a lot of places for them to go, sadly, are there? The Egypt borders, obviously,
there is a
blocked off.
This is a situation which has been created by Hamas, a murderous terrorist organisation, but at the moment, regrettably, deeply regrettably, it is, in practical terms, the government in Gaza. It is the organisation which has responsibility for the welfare of the people that it has asserted control over.
Will peace never happen with Hamas in control? Is that a reality?
It is very clear Hamas has no interest in peace. I mean, look at this message, this mantra, this chant, from the river to the sea. What does that mean? It means pushing every Jew out of Israel. That is their objective. Okay. The coalition strongly supports a negotiated, lasting peace, two-state solution. Our position on that is very clear.
The Palestinian Authority.
These are murderous terrorist thugs, and absolutely we support Israel's right to self-defense.
Yeah, I mean, the barbarity was sort of ISIS, I guess, is the most recent comparison.
I think it's an absolutely accurate comparison. It's absolutely accurate.
I want to talk to you about the Voice result. Yeah. Are you worried you're out of touch with your electorate? It was the one Liberal electorate to support it.
Well, look, on the most recent numbers, I think the yes vote in Bradfield, 51.37%. So that was very close to line.
So you're clearly keeping an eye on it?
Of course I am. Any responsible MP would be. Can I make the point that the yes vote for same-sex marriage in Bradfield was 60.6%. In 1999, the yes vote for the referendum, for the Republic, I should say, was 55.6%. And so compared to those results, it is clear that the Yes campaign did not get the traction in Bradfield that certainly was seen with those other changes in what might be called social policy issues.
Nonetheless, it's a big number compared to the state and the country. Does it give you a reminder? I mean, you won 54-46 last time, but lost 15% in your primary. You went up against the Teal. That this is, at least on the demographics and everything, potentially Teal territory. Are you on guard, if you like?
Well, the results of the election were clear. It's a Liberal seat. It's not a Teal seat.
It's friendlier for Teals than when they've got their seats right now. If they're looking at the next one, they might be able to win. This is clearly high up the list.
Well, you'll have to ask the Teal Party what their strategy is. But what I can tell you my strategy is to be focused on the issues of concern to Australians, cost of living, mortgages. I have a lot of constituents talking to me about mortgages, 11 interest rate rises under this Prime Minister. He promised to make mortgages cheaper. They've gone in the other direction. He promised to help people with the cost of living burden. He promised a $275 reduction.
He promise mortgages would be cheaper?
Well, he said at his when he was in Western Australia that there would be cheaper mortgages. He absolutely did promise that. And indeed, he promised a $275 reduction in energy
He did do that.
prices.
I'm sure you'll point out to me. We might talk it next time because we're out of time. But the promise on cheaper mortgages, but I'm out of time to look at that further. Paul Fletcher, I'll let you get back to the chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.